Thank you for joining me this evening. Um, so first, I want to start out. You probably have seen my George Newmeyer video. May he rest in peace. Pray for his soul. Now, there has been some interesting information that has come up. He traveled to Ivory Coast in Africa. Mm, it, his primary reason apparently was his fiance who was there. I didn't realize he was engaged. He didn't really post it a whole lot, but he did post it. It is on Twitter. So, um, what does she know? Now, someone said her Facebook page was pretty empty, but I don't know. Does she have any information? And also, I would imagine that he had some information that he had not made public about just different things in the church, different bishops. Um, I don't think we'll ever know that, which is really sad. I don't need to know stuff, but it's helpful. Um, I don't really need to know stuff for gossip, basically, but it is helpful whenever it comes down to, asking bishops to resign, even though it doesn't matter anymore, because they won't resign, even if they're, who knows, even if they're preaching heresy. Plenty of cardinals are doing that right now. So, the German synodal way. The German bishops experienced resistance from only a part of the Roman Curia during their November 2022 ad limina visit. According to Bishop Helmut Dieser, he's definitely a full German bishop. The Roman officials were mostly rather silent in conflict talks where the bishops stressed that all the topics of the German synod also contained in Francis's synod. Dieser said that the opponents of a change are vocal, well-connected, and highly aggressive. He confirmed that the German bishops have a document in the drawer that wants to grant active LMNOP and adulterers a blessing. And I did see something on Twitter today. Oh, the Vatican sent a strongly worded letter to the Germans. Wow. It was approved by Pope Francis. Okay, so which one of them is getting fired now? Because remember, whenever the one, was it a bishop or a monsignor, who released the Vatican's letter that said that LMNOP couples could not receive blessings? Yeah, he was fired. So who's getting fired this time? All right, correction on Cardinal Pell. There was information that he celebrated the Latin Mass. This is from Anne Barnhart. She said, here's what I've been told by eyewitness sources in Rome who frequently visited Cardinal Pell's home. Cardinal Pell celebrated the Latin Mass fewer than 10 times in his life, probably. Pell's secretary celebrated his daily Mass in the Tridentine Rite, and Pell had done at least one priestly ordination, a couple of pontifical Masses in Italy, and a Mass in Australia in the Tridentine Rite, but that's it, fewer than 10 times in his life. He simply did not celebrate the Latin Mass each day. To say that he did is objectively false. His daily Mass was the Novus Ordo to the end of his life, and he had only celebrated the Latin Mass a few times in his entire life. This information was on Our Sunday Visitor, and hopefully they will correct that. It was Pell's secretary who celebrated the Latin Mass, not Pell. So, if I get something wrong, I'll correct it. And I did. Our Sunday Visitor got it wrong too, and so hopefully they correct that. All right. So there was some ceremony in the Vatican. Pope Francis formally conferred the ministries. Well, I wouldn't say formally. This is from the National Catholic Register. He formally conferred the ministries of lector and catechist upon 4 men and 6 women on Sunday at a Mass in St. Peter's Basilica. So you know the minor orders were reserved for men, at least in the Roman Catholic Church. But in the Francis Church, These aren't really minor orders, these are just goofy titles. So, and that makes it more inclusive for women. So, there you go. Um, I just made this. I just made this connection here, but listen to the story. So McCarrick, that's former Cardinal McCarrick, is in significant mental decline and may not be fit to stand trial, his attorneys say in a new court filing. Whoa! I probably said this. You could probably go find one of my videos and see where I said this. Are you surprised? No. This McCarrick will never be in court again. I'm calling it right now. Or at least the only time he'll be in court is whenever they're debating about whether he's mentally fit to stand trial. So McCarrick's, um, yeah, any kind of charges against McCarrick, I just think this is gone. I think this any of these cases, I think we're done. He'll never be charged with anything. The legal team for the 92-year-old ex-prelate said that it plans to file a motion to dismiss the case, citing a neurological exam conducted by a doctor, a professor of psychiatry and behavioral sciences at Johns Hopkins University School of Medicine. Wow, they must have had to pay him a lot. The exam took place on December 5th, 2022 at a facility in Missouri where McCarrick is living. What is the date on this? Because I said, isn't it a coincidence? January 17th. Okay, isn't it a coincidence that this happens right around the time George Neumeier died? I don't know. Okay, moving along. Latin Mass rumors. So, let me find this. Matt Gaspers shared this story of Robert Moynihan. Robert Moynihan received a letter from, or an email from a priest. I believe it was a priest, right? He said, I just received this fascinating letter, which I will publish below. Oh no, that was Matt Gaspers. Anyway, it says, Hi Robert, as we both know, there are no real secrets in Rome. So without revealing the identity, I can tell you that an archbishop in the States, the United States, has seen this document, the one that's going to crack down on the Latin Mass. I've seen this document about which rumors abound and confirmed to a priest friend of mine who is a person of true integrity and would not casually spread the rumor, that it does indeed contain what some have guessed at, a further suppression of the Latin Mass with an exception for religious orders who solely celebrate privately, no parish churches, and some possible further cancellations for the, it says FSP, but is it the FSSP? No, possible further clarifications for the FSSP. So that means they probably won't be able to say all the sacraments, and they'll have to they'll be pressured to attend the Chrism Mass, celebrate, whatever the Vatican II says about it. It was found necessary to issue this second letter because of the lack of implementation of Pope Francis' motu proprio by a good number of bishops around the world, basically by using Canon 87, which says the bishop has control over his own diocese, and Pope Francis doesn't like that. He doesn't like giving up authority to anyone. That's why he's not liking what the Germans... I think he supports what the Germans are doing. I think that he doesn't like their independent attitude. That's what he doesn't like. I think the LMNOP stuff and the women priests, I think he's all okay with that. All right. It is scheduled for release in April or May and would carry the weight of an apostolic exhortation to match that of Paul VI formally establishing the new rite, so basically equally as invalid. It would effectively take away from the bishops any further say or exceptions in the matter. If issued, I believe it will push the Latin Mass underground and further add to the ranks of the Pius X Society, which has already grown by 3 times since the issuance of the Motu Proprio by Pope Francis. This will not end well. The Latin Mass will survive whether any Catholics will continue to go to a further watered down Novus Ordo, which is also supposed to be part of this document, will remain to be seen. Attendance at weekly Sunday Mass by Catholics is currently at 12%. In the United States, in most dioceses, it is 2.5% in the Netherlands. Okay, and this is from a priest who belongs to one of the traditionalist orders. So, there you have it. All right, moving on to Iowa. On Monday, the Diocese of Des Moines, Iowa, enacted its Gender Identity Guide and Policies, prohibiting the use of preferred pronouns and cross-dressing on diocesan property while emphasizing the need to offer genuine assistance and compassion for those struggling with gender confusion. Bathrooms and locker rooms must be used in accordance with what it says on your birth certificate. Diocese condemned the practice of medical transition in light of church teaching, and the bishop is William Michael Joensen, Joensen. Is it Johnson, Joensen, whatever? Good job. And it angered a lot of the far left fake Catholics, so even better. All right, Bishop Batsing. So you have any question that there's a false church? Bishop Georg Batzing of Limburg, Germany, issued last year a pastoral guide on sexual education in his diocese. The Limburg guide is dated May 17th, 2022, so it's, 8 months at least old, but was made public this week. It instructs diocesan institutions and parishes to respect different lifestyles and to actively promote an appreciation of diversity in sexual identity and orientation. Perverts. This guide says sexuality is not only between man and woman, but also between woman and woman, or between man and man, or between people who feel neither like a woman nor like a man. It stresses the need for acceptance of all of these different arrangements and says the Diocese of Limburg welcomes all couples who wish to have their partnerships blessed. The guide says that Catholic educators should promote people in their sexual self-determination, to which every human being has a right. Self-determination means the person decides something for himself, it adds. Wow, they use gendered language there. And it goes against what they're talking about. When they say itself, every person decides something for itself. I don't know. Adolescents, oh boy. Adolescents having their first sexual experiences, the guide says, need to be supported in developing their identity in questions of education, contraception, unwanted pregnancies, and avoiding the transmission of sexual diseases. So basically, they're groomers. Okay, groomer. That's really bad. All right. Cardinal Jean-Claude Hollerich announced Monday that the October 2023 session of the Synod of Bishops on Synodality will begin with a retreat led by Dominican preacher Father Timothy Radcliffe from October 1st to 3rd at the invitation of Pope Francis. So this rotten Dominican was invited. Are you surprised? Are you surprised that he would invite such a rotten guy? Just listen to this. Radcliffe is 77. He has served as head of the Dominican Order. He served as head of the Dominican Order from 1992 to 2001. I don't know if that might be his Dominican Order. That's awful. In an Anglican Pilling report in 2013, Radcliffe wrote that when considering LMNOP relationships, he said, we cannot be with the question of whether it is permitted or forbidden. We must ask what it means and how far it is Eucharistic. What? That's disgusting. That's blasphemous. He says, certainly it can be generous, vulnerable, tender, mutual, and nonviolent. Sick. He says, so in many ways, I think it can be expressive of Christ's self-gift. Again, I think it's blasphemous. This is disgusting. These perverts. I mean, it's like, can you get any worse? Frank Walker calls it the perv church. I mean, come on. I don't even have any words. I mean, that's not even... I don't have any words to accurately describe these disgusting, filthy people. This is awful. We've been taken over by an army of rainbow men. This Francis Church talks about tenderness. That's disgusting. This man, he's so tender. Wow. How effeminate. All right. In Duluth, Minnesota, the Bishop of Duluth, Minnesota received a dispensation from the Vatican to have Latin Mass in a parish church for 2 years. The bishop announced it at the Latin Mass. This was ending in October 2024, so he must have received the notification quite a while ago, because October 24, I mean, that's next year. But nonetheless, it's interesting that he has been granted this dispensation. Now, he probably got it. They probably gave him this dispensation last year, a decent while ago last year. But now that Benedict died, the idea is, especially with what I talked about earlier, not the pervy stuff, but the crackdowns of the Latin Mass. The Vatican may have come up with this after they granted this supposed dispensation for the Latin Mass. So, well, I mean, that's good that it's sort of kind of, you know, not guaranteed, but it's sort of kind of in place for a while. At least that's what, you know, everyone's under the impression that's the case. The bishop would have a hard time backing out of that. So that's always good. Kind of get them to make a commitment. They don't like to do that. They don't like to really commit to anything or promise anything. It's not good to promise anything you can't follow through with, and I think the bishops understand that right now. All right, getting to the comments. Thank you for joining me today. Wouldn't catechist basically be like a CCD teacher? Yeah. Yep, pretty much. I mean, heck, like, I could probably call myself a catechist, like, if I wanted to read the Baltimore Catechism. Like, do the Baltimore Catechism in a year, Father Mike. You know, Father Mike Schmitz, he's doing the modern catechism in a year. What about the Baltimore Catechism? What about the Council of Trent, Catechism of Trent? Do that in a year. I'd absolutely follow that. That'd be great. FSSP charter says only Latin Mass. Yeah. Was there a Chrism Mass pre-Vatican II? No, and I don't think you could celebrate either. Stay from that German diocese. Yeah. I don't know. See, that's my thought. Like, a lot of the German bishops are really bad. It's hard to compare it to the United States. I mean, we have Supich and McElroy and Tobin. We have Stowe. Stowe's terrible. We have some pretty terrible bishops, but not a lot. Like, not a lot are really, really bad, like the Germans. I mean, I think they believe a lot of the stuff that the Germans support. I think they quietly support it. They don't openly support it like the Germans. So, but there's also a lot of bishops that maybe don't support that stuff in the United States. So it's hard to imagine anything like that happening in the United States, but I can guarantee you there would be definitely some pushback. Although, you know, a lot of people are just so passive. Like if a bishop would preach heresy, they'd be like, whatever, I'll continue to go to my Novus Ordo church. Like, really, people? Come on. And if you have a priest that stands up, okay, but if you're gonna do that, then stand up for the mass of the Roman Rite. You know, like you got to pick your battles. You got to. Where's the Where's the line that you draw? You got to draw your line somewhere because this is ridiculous. I mean, I think like most of the Vatican has already left the Catholic faith. I mean, uh, at least in their own minds. I don't know that I can make a personal judgment and declare everyone a heretic, but what do they believe? Do they accept all of the doctrines of the Catholic faith? I think very few of them would. And we've already seen deviations from the faith, like capital punishment. That's not a convenient one to support. But divorce and remarriage, that's the Vatican specifically contradicts the words of Jesus in the Gospels. So what does that mean? I mean, they've already deviated from the Catholic faith. All right, well, that's what I have for EVTN News. This has been EVTN News. Until next time, thank you so much for watching. We are the laity, and we will not be silent.